Hi, and welcome to a live session today. We're going to talk a little bit about pensions, and I've been getting this topic has been a very popular topic, right? And I've been seeing a lot of people giving their thoughts on this particular subject. So today in this live, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the uh, points which were given to me, and then after that we're just going to deliberate over it. And if you guys have any thoughts, please put it down in the comment sections and we can have continued discussion on this topic. So the first point which I made quite recently is that if pensions were to be taken off the system, what's going to happen is that there will be less people incentivized to join the civil service or join as a government servant, right? And it all boils down to this economic theory where if you want to incentivize someone to do something, you give a bigger reward, and if you want to de-incentivize people to do something, you take away that particular reward. So by taking away pensions, what's going to happen is that the demand for jobs, especially within the civil service, will drop, right? And for me, quite recently, I'm a sandwich generation lah, basically, right? So I noticed that people that I use the healthcare service, right? A public healthcare service, and every time when I go to the public hospitals, right, I can see that there is not enough katil atau tak cukup katil, or there are not enough beds to go around for the patients. So sometimes when there is a case, right, when you need to see a doctor, right, sometimes when there's not enough resources, what tends to happen is that we get lost within the queue, or it takes a very long time for us to see a professional or seek professional help, right? So that's the first thing I noticed. There's just not enough resources for the public healthcare sector, number one. Number two, another thing which I use in terms of the services given by the government is the education system, right? And I notice right now more and more students, they find it very difficult to piece a sentence, to just write a normal sentence, right? Sometimes the grammar is a bit off, spelling is a bit off, and in terms of comprehension also, I noticed that it was not as I guess as strong as it was before. Another thing which I noticed is that if you look at PISA, right? PISA has already ranked our country in terms of our competitiveness against all the other regional players lah. So Singapore came number one. I think we were number 3 at one time, but since our educational system continued to decline, what happened was our educational system, we lost to Brunei quite recently, right? So again, we could see that public healthcare and also education has already took a substantial, we could see a downward trend lah for both healthcare and also for the education sector, right? So what I was of the opinion is, if we were to take out the pension system, what tends to happen is that you de-incentivize people to masuk in these sectors, and then you will lose your talent. And when you lose talent, we will lose people that can come up with ideas on how to compete in a global or on a regional level. So that was the thing that scared me a little bit lah, right? Point number two is back in the day, our forefathers lah, or the people that built our country, right? I think they were the ones that actually came up with the idea of paying the civil service some form of pension lah, right? And back then, we have to remember that Malaysia wasn't the richest country. In fact, we were struggling, right? We were a farming nation, and we are a nation which actually, we go fishing, right? In fact, even my grandfather, my grandparents or great grandparents, we came from very humble beginnings lah. We all came from Kedah. And my dad used to remind me over and over and over again, we we were kampong folk, right? And we cannot forget that, right? But what really helped improve our standard of living, right, was education. And this was thanks to the policymakers and also the government back then, where they decided to actually hire teachers, and with these teachers come the pension, right? So the point which I'm trying to make over here is that they actually had teachers which actually had pensions, and our country was much poorer back then, many years ago, right? So our country was very poor back then, but despite teachers being paid a pension, this actually saw our country move from one of the poor countries, right, after the war, up until to an ASEAN tiger, right? And we were the ASEAN tigers back then, right? And our economy was booming, right? And I think part of the reasons why is that we had really good educators, and educators actually gave education to the future Malaysians, right? Which was my dad's generation, and then from there they managed to build the nation, right, into what it was maybe during the 80s and during the 90s, lah, right? So that's number two, right? Despite our country being relatively poor back then, our I guess government decided to hire teachers and give them pensions, right? And with that, right, these teachers actually train Malaysians to become global leaders and or regional champions. And we could see that Malaysia became one of the ASEAN tigers at one time during the 80s and during the 90s, right? So I think to say that the pensions right now should be abolished, I don't understand the argument really. I mean, our country was much poorer back then compared to right now, right? Our country is much richer right now. Why are we looking towards abolishing the pensions, lah? I guess. So that was the argument, lah. And my thing was, I said, we had it back then, and it worked back then, right? So what's the difference right now? The third thing is with regards to the economy, lah, right? Once if we were to take out the pensions, what's going to happen is that maybe a lot right now I notice what's happening is a lot of government staff, right, upon their retirement, right, they will get a monthly pension. Every month they'll get a pension, right? And what I noticed is that with that, they will actually take that money, they will go back to the kampong, they will just spend on different items, lah, right? And with that, we could see the economy grow, right? So if we were to take away that particular monthly payment, what's going to happen is the overall economy would shrink even further, right? We will shrink even further, right? So those are the top three reasons why I am I tend to be inclined with regards, or I tend to like the pension plan, right? That being said, there were a couple of people which says, number one, they said that the government's sector is overstaffed, right? And I can't help but think every time when I go to a hospital, especially the government hospitals, the nurses have to buy their own clothes, right? And this is me looking at the nurses, right? And then on top of that, right, when you want to get your medication, right, it's a 1 or 2 hour wait. Actually, it's not even one, it's 2 or 3 hour wait just to get your medication, and you have to be in the hospital very early in the morning. I fail to see the reason why people say that our government staff is our government service is overstaffed, right? Secondly, when we go to schools, right, some schools has about 40 to 50 people, right? And on top of that, teachers cannot take care of the slower students. And to be very honest, I was a very slow student myself, right? Luckily for me, I guess, my parents could I guess afford to take me for tuition, right? But right now, if parents cannot afford to give their kids tuition or give their kids special attention, right? I worry what will happen in the future. I truly worry what will happen in the future, right? If teachers cannot pay attention to 1 or 2 or maybe 5 or 10 students which need an extra care, right? On top of that, basic necessities within the schools, right? Like buying, like even printing out question papers, right? Back then, right, when I was doing an exam, teachers would give us the question papers, and then we would print it out, and then they would print it out, and then after that we will do the exercise, right? Right now, however, a lot of the exercise, right, especially when it has to be printed out, we have to print it out as parents, lah, right? So yeah, right now I can see that even schools, they lack the basic necessity, right? So I think overall, I think to just wrap this whole thing up now, right, is that I think pensions, right, there's a pro and there's a con for it, right? And to be very honest, right, I think right now, to say certain places are overstuffed, I don't think, for me actually going through all this government or going through the public healthcare and also the education, right, I fail to see it. I really do, right? And I think instead of saying that why continue with this, right? Why don't we really understand the root of everything, right? I truly feel that if our country has a proper direction, if our country actually had a proper direction, a blueprint, and we are doing things which actually adds value, maybe we will need more people as opposed to less people. I think it's not the number of people. It's not the number of people that we hire. Rather, it's the type of activity each person does. If we pay the person maybe 100 ringgit, right, and he brings in maybe 300 or 400 ringgit worth of value, we can actually even hire more and more people. That being said, if we hire someone and he does not bring that much of value, then maybe it's us as bosses, or maybe it's us as leaders. If we set a proper direction, I think we can hire as many people as we want, so long if it brings in more value to the organization. Again, as Malaysia as a country, right, so long if we continue creating value, right, like I said, teachers, they build the foundation of the country. The healthcare people, they take care of our parents, right? So yeah, I think, long story short lah, I strongly feel that maybe the pensions should be continued, I think, right? That being said, we should maybe also look and give the country a direction towards further growth, towards further prosperity, towards developing our country again. If we have a proper direction, if we have a proper plan, never know, we could be another ASEAN tiger in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Again, it's all about the blueprint and executing the blueprint. With that, take care, guys.